to another episode of The Follow-Up. I'm Eden, and this is my dad, Noah. And every week, except for last week because I was on vacation, we sit on my bed and have a conversation about something we want to talk about. And this week, we're going to talk about our weekend.
Well, welcome back.
Thanks.
Yeah, you and Mom were on vacation. I was hanging here by myself.
All alone.
Yeah. Well, it was nice to have you back on Friday. Missed you for the week. And how would you describe your weekend?
A weekend of new experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a weekend of firsts, for sure. So let's start with Saturday.
So for the first time, I went to an LIU basketball game.
Okay, so let's explain all this in case there's anybody new. So we live in New York City.
Yes.
LIU is Long Island University.
Their basketball their basketball facility, or arena we'll call it, is here in New York.
It's in Brooklyn. So there's different campuses of LIU, but LIU Brooklyn is a Division I basketball team whose games I used to broadcast back in 2005 and 2006 when I was just out of college. And LIU plays in the Northeast Conference, an 8-team conference, and one of those, like the winner of that tournament goes to the NCAA tournament. It's a one-bid conference. It's low major basketball. So it's not very far away. It's only about half hour away. So we went to the game on Saturday. So you have been to NBA games before?
Yeah.
You've been to a WNBA game. You've never been to a college game before.
No.
This isn't typical of all college games.
No.
But all right, so try to describe the scene there.
The setting?
Yeah.
So you walk in, you go up a flight of stairs, and then you see the arena. It's not the arena, you see
the court.
You see the court.
Mm-hmm.
You walk straight in, and there's the court in the middle, and there are a bunch of bleachers around it, and you choose where you want to sit. Right.
So we were going to buy tickets beforehand on my phone, and we couldn't. It wouldn't hit complete purchase. So when we got there, there was no line. When you walk in kind of where the pool is, and I said, where can we get tickets? And they said, it's your lucky day. It's free. So we just walk up, and we just sit wherever we want. The place holds about 1,500 people, I think. There might have been 200 people. Maybe.
Might have. Including players and cheerleaders.
Yeah, it was kind of sad. But the head coach of LIU Brooklyn is Rod Strickland. So for any basketball fans out there, Rod was a great New York City point guard. He was the first big star to go to Oak Hill Academy for high school, so he kind of put that program on the map in high school. And then he played for a number of years in the NBA, was one of the all-time leaders in assists. He was a great, I wouldn't say great, he was, because he's not a Hall of Famer, he was a very, very good NBA point guard. And he's now the coach of LIU, and it's his first year coaching the team. So these aren't his players. Okay, so we went there knowing that LIU was not very good.
No.
They had 3 wins all season, only one against the Division I school, which came against our buddy Randy Brochu's Sacred Heart team.
Yeah.
And Randy listens to the podcast, so he'll like that. So this basketball, how would you describe LIU's performance?
It was not very good.
No.
That's how I'm going to describe it.
That's putting it nicely. It was terrible. we had a great time.
We had a good time
being there together, just watching basketball.
Yeah.
Basketball is fun to watch, no matter what you're watching. Do you remember how long the drought was for LIU at the end of the first half?
Like 8 minutes.
8.5 minutes to end the first half without a field goal made. 14 turnovers in the first half. 8 made field goals for the game.
25.
24 turnovers.
24. And they made less field goals.
And they made 21 shots. Yikes.
Yeah.
And they played Merrimack, who they were fine, played good defense. They just couldn't make shots, and they kept turning the ball over. And some of these turnovers, I kept thinking, what is going on here? I just couldn't believe certain things were happening.
Right.
And I was trying to picture myself if I was broadcasting a game, how if I was the home team announcer, how I would have handled it. But if you were an unbiased national announcer, then you could put a little bit more personality into it. It was a mess. It was a mess.
Yeah.
But the dance team was good.
They were pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just something different. Like you can, like in New York, you could go to a Knicks game, you go to a Nets game. It's not like a college town.
No.
It's the biggest city in the U.S. So, you can go to Brooklyn and go to an LIU game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was still very fun.
Yeah, would you do it again next year?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny seeing Rod Strickland on the sideline just going like this. He was pretty frustrated.
And I don't blame him.
Even the parents of the players in the stands were. I felt terrible that this was their basketball experience. Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. Another first. Mom and I went out to dinner last night, and you had a new sitter. She'd never come over before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you guys had fun.
Yeah.
So that's
good.
So that's another new experience.
Yeah.
And in our building, so you can explain it real quick how it works.
So in our building,
because it's different. Like when
we have like a building link, and so like you can post like
message board kind of thing.
Message board like you need sitter options for sitters. Like people can contact you and say, "Oh, I would be willing to be one of those people," and
then they come over and we meet them, and then for the future, if
sure.
we need someone to come over, and it's like come up in the elevator, or it's not like when Mom and I would babysit. Or I don't know if Mom babysat, but I was I did sometimes when I was a kid, and you'd have to you get in the car and you drive somewhere. It's a little different here.
Yeah, it was walk.
You could just come in your slippers
right.
if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And what about today? Yeah.
So for the first time, I went to the Tenement Museum.
Mm-hmm. And where is that?
Lower East Side.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure Orchard Street.
Orchard Street. Yep. So, and the tenements were the neighborhood around there, and the tenements were the buildings where many immigrants and a lot of Jews
right.
when escaping persecution settled in this area, and so they have lots of different types of tours from different eras there. And Mom and I have been before, but you hadn't been there before. And Mom she's read a lot of historical fiction about the area, so she feels pretty attached to it too. And so today's tour was about two different families, and they recreated. Well, they actually used one of the apartments of one of the families, and then used another room in the apartment, two of the other rooms in the apartment, to look like the other families who lived there. Yeah, so it was, and in the 50s and 60s, a Jewish family and a Puerto Rican family. So as you're in there, what are you thinking? We were sitting in the girl's bedroom of a 8-year-old girl from that time whose parents were Holocaust survivors, and this was 1955.
It's really interesting to see like what it was like back then, I think, and kind of like comparing that to like what it is now,
mm-hmm.
and kind of just seeing how different it was.
Mm-hmm. What really stood out? The differences.
The differences, I think, just what really stood out was how they got the apartment,
mm-hmm.
but most people were only living in the area because it was where other people were, which I thought stood out.
Other people, like other Jews.
Which I thought stood out because I think it was interesting that they moved there because that's where they were.
Right.
But then, kind of when they moved, everyone else started to move out the area.
Right, then it got much more diverse
right.
there. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Right, we saw that progression between
so
the 50s and 60s and 70s.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you move somewhere
to be with other people like you.
Right, exactly.
But
so
then,
shared experiences.
Kind of, everyone started moving out of that area.
Yeah, after a certain time, just neighborhoods change over.
I thought that was interesting. how it was like just a change.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing a chart, how it was like over a few years,
Decades.
just how diverse it started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, between the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and the change in ethnic
Like now when you
groups
look at New York, it's so diverse.
Yeah, but at one time down there in the 50s, it was like a majority white,
Yeah.
and then by the time we got to the 70s and 80s, it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, let alone Jewish or not, that's what it was there.
But I think it's great that it's more diverse now
Sure. Yeah.
because
Yeah, a lot of people
Everyone
just
should
living
be
together.
around.
Yeah, sure. But moving there because they felt the most
yeah,
comfortable, and also
Right.
that's where they could afford housing.
Yeah.
But because it wasn't luxurious at all, but where they could afford it and where they could be around other people who
Yeah.
might have understood
yeah,
where they were coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a family of a 39-year-old and a 27-year-old husband and wife who met after surviving concentration camps, and met in a camp set up by the
Yeah.
U.S. Army, and then building back their lives. I mean, I can't imagine ever. There's nothing I can imagine less than going through that.
Yeah.
But then, an 8-year-old girl who's your age, 8 years old, now with those parents and living here and not knowing anything about what her parents have.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, not knowing or totally understanding all those things that your parents had just gone through?
Yeah.
Yeah. What also stood out to me in their bedroom was, and I know they recreated some things, but
Yeah.
there just wasn't much.
No.
They had a bookshelf, had some books on it. That's about it. So most things were just, they just went outside and ran around and played.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she seemed to
And
have
I
a
also-
happy childhood.
Yeah, something also that is that everything matched in there.
No, you had the wall.
Everything
Yeah.
matched. Everything was bright. But what I thought was funny was what we saw in that apartment.
Mhm.
So they were talking about how the mom really liked to paint the walls different colors.
Mhm.
So one of the girls' main color was blue, one was pink.
Mhm.
But the two rooms that we saw the colors of were blue and pink.
Oh, that's true.
And I also thought, like, that kind of stood out to me.
Mhm.
I don't know if on purpose. But
Yeah, and I like that the mom was painting and changing the colors to keep them bright.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is interesting to go on different tours of different neighborhoods in New York. I think we've talked about it. I think we might have talked about it once before, about the walking tour that we had went on. And you live in a
Oh, yeah.
you live in a
We live
city,
in an area, but we barely know anything about it.
right? And there's just so much history around.
Right.
And I also feel like that's the case probably in most cities around in
Yeah.
the United States.
Even the smallest cities, there's nothing like that.
Yeah, there's history there.
There's history.
Mhm.
You can find history everywhere.
Yeah, which I do think is really interesting.
Yeah.
To be able to find that history everywhere. All right, so now you've got, like you kind of opened your eyes to some different
Yeah.
things, and I like that. When I was your age, if Grandpa had said, "Hey, we're going to go to this museum," I would have thought, "Oh, yeah, all right." Like I wouldn't have been as open-minded as you are. So I appreciate you being open-minded with it. Yeah. And next, I'd like to go. We're gonna go to the Statue of Liberty.
I need to be 4 feet. Now I want to get to the top.
Yeah, you have to be 4 feet to get to
Yeah,
the top.
have you ever been to the top?
I don't think so.
That'll be a new experience for you and me.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
your mom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we'll
Another
do,
new experience.
We'll do that in the spring.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's just fun. It was a good weekend.
It was?
Hope you have a good week at school.
Thanks.
Love you.
Okay.